What's going on, you guys? Now this is an update to a previous video I did where I compared my Weider Ultimate Bodyworks to a Total Gym, and I can put that link down below if you guys are curious. But really, in retrospect, that really wasn't too much of a fair video because I was comparing a kind of low-end sliding bench trainer to really more of a high-end sliding bench trainer to the Total Gym Fit. And now since there's a new Ultimate Bodyworks, the ProForm Ultimate Bodyworks, I thought I'd revisit that in a more of a balanced follow-up to a complementary kind of machine or entry-level sliding bench trainer like the Total Gym Apex G1, which I've also reviewed as well, so I can link that and also the ProForm review down below if you guys haven't seen that. And I also just really want to make this video to examine really what is the best option for you if you're considering a less expensive, maybe entry-level sliding bench trainer. Like I said, if you're considering getting one either on a budget or it's an update to an older model, or if you're just kind of considering just getting your feet wet, putting something in your house to really reap all the benefits that these machines have to offer. That's what I'll be getting into in this video. I'll put timestamps down below and links in the description box for everything that I'll be covering. And just a big thank you guys in advance for all you guys do to help support me and also kind of spread the word on these very underrated pieces of fitness equipment. But if you guys do find any of this stuff useful, please consider liking and or subscribing. So first, just kind of getting into price and comparing these two. And like I said, as far as I know, these are the cheapest entry-level sliding bench trainers that are out there, at least in the United States, but let me know if I'm wrong. There actually was another one on Amazon that I actually ordered twice and had to stop the order because it was just delayed so long. And I think now it's just finally, I don't think they make these, but if you get wind of anything else, let me know. Now, as far as the Total Gym Apex, that's kind of fluctuated a little bit in price. It was as low as like $238 at one point for a very brief period of time. Then it kind of sold out. Now it's up to $280. It's been kind of sitting there more or less for a while now. Again, you're getting no squat stand, just a kind of a pull-up bar attachment. So kind of considering you kind of get more or less a bare-boned, Total Gym entry-level machine. And then as far as the ProForm Ultimate Bodyworks, right now the cheapest place, I did a whole video on that, is still at Lowe's. You can buy this for $248, where initially in most places it's going for $279. I had a promo code for that, but really I just say, go to Lowe's if you're considering this, because it's a pretty cheap price, especially considering that you're getting free shipping with that. And both these are pretty comparable, I should say, with the weight limit. So both are sitting at 300-pound weight limit as well. Now, getting into comparing dimensions, one thing I would definitely give into the Apex G1's favor is that it is very light and compact. Actually, I said this before many times, this is like my go-to sliding bench that I pick up if I'm going to go travel and bring it somewhere. And this actually beat out my Weider Ultimate Bodyworks, which actually collapsed down pretty good and was pretty easy to kind of transport. But even this G1, I think, is actually lighter than that. And while the ProForm Ultimate Bodyworks improved upon the old Weider model in a few things, which I kind of get into that in that review, it unfortunately is just a beast. It's kind of built like a tank and is not the easiest thing to kind of set up and break down. And that's kind of really a major reason why you don't see me using this machine as much, because I kept it in the back storage room, and picking it up and hauling it around is just a lot bigger, even compared to like the Fit or my XLS Total Gyms. Now, when you're kind of comparing just how the two look when they're kind of laid out next to each other in their collapsed state, the ProForm looks a bit bigger, but in actuality it's a little bit smaller in some respects. The glide board is a little bit thinner, especially with the padding. That's not really a big deal. Doesn't have the weight bar attachment hole, which we'll kind of get into later. I mean, that's a big, con for the ProForm Ultimate Bodyworks. And the Apex model does, and in my initial review, I think that's really a huge plus, because I talked about that before, that in my Total Gym Buyer's Guide videos, when you start talking about these cheaper sliding bench trainers, like the Apex frames, like the Extreme and some other ones that are out there, they kind of all share the same kind of frame, like the Apex frame, and the only difference is like the number of increments. But some of those more expensive ones, like even like a Total Gym Extreme, I think, doesn't even have a weight bar attachment hole option. So it's pretty cool. This is the cheapest Total Gym model that's out there, but still has that weight bar attachment. Now, the glide board looks a little longer on the ProForm, especially in this video, but when I actually measure it, you guys can see and locking in the distance, comparing it to the Total Gym Apex, it seemed essentially the same as far as the actual length. It also appeared to be a little bit narrower compared to the G1, but when I measured that, they also were the same. So looking at these based on my approximate measurements, the basic glide board distance was essentially the same. Now, when I measured these at full height, and again, bearing in mind that the ProForm model, that top hole is not functional for like a tower height setting, it's like for the middle cable. When I measured the actual endpoints, it didn't really appear to be like a huge difference. I will say that ProForm does appear to have like a steeper incline, but really once you're on there, but really when you actually look at the measurements as far as the actual real endpoints of the glide board, there really wasn't a huge difference. I'd say like an inch, maybe to a half an inch. A minor difference in the height of the ProForm, but I think what really does matter is when you actually compare the actual glide distance on the rails on the machine, and that was actually longer on the Total Gym Apex when I compared that to the Ultimate Bodyworks. And that was something that was noticeable when I initially jumped on the machine, which I'll get into here in a second. All right, so now getting into some other major differences, looking first just at the ProForm and then comparing it directly to the Apex. You're seeing me kind of set it up like I was alluding to, and like I said, it's bulky, definitely compared to its predecessor, so it's a tad a little bit more involved with setting it up, but that's not a huge deal, again, considering that you're trading off for the bigger quality frame. So it wins out slightly over the Apex in levels, and I'm counting really borderline levels here because I don't know if you really want to count that first little increment level. It's not the most functional thing, but you're winning out with, like, 7 versus the 6 levels in the Apex. But what is the major downfall, honestly, in this new model where the Total Gym Apex wins out isn't just kind of the speed and actually changing these increments on the tower. You'll notice this as you kind of watch the workout, or I don't know how much this I'll edit in there, but really you really have to screw the thing off and then pull the pin and then adjust it. When I first got it, I thought like, oh, you just pull the pin and adjust it, which you got to be careful because that's deceiving. I said that in my initial review, because if you don't, the thing will collapse. You actually pull the pin and then have to screw it in for a decent amount, like I'd say for at least 10, 15, 20 seconds. Not a huge deal, but it's not nearly as quick and fast as the Total Gym is. Now underneath here you can see that on the ProForm, you guys might already know this, you cannot detach that middle pulley, conversely to the Total Gym Apex, which kind of makes it a little bit more noisy, but you kind of do get used to it, honestly. Then you can also see the resistance bands under the machine, which are also really great in my opinion. I've always said those are great feeling resistance bands. Now as far as the actual just functionality of the machine, when I jumped back onto this and started just working out with it, as I said, what was initially noticeable right once I started getting on here, just doing some simple presses, was that I did find myself kind of hitting just kind of topping out the machine. And again, you kind of saw that with the different glide distance. I think you would get used to this if this was like your only machine, which maybe you just sit a little bit further back. But pretty quickly, I just noticed if I just kind of switched out and added an extra carabiner, so I had 2 carabiner clips on there, it lengthened it out perfectly, and I thought it worked out fine. And if this is kind of a little side note, a lot of you guys ask her, you guys want to lengthen the cable slightly for whatever reason. This is a good simplistic way of doing it. And I bought and purchased a bunch of carabiner clips. I can link them down below. That really come in handy. So just simply lengthening the cable, lengthening the distance on the cable made a big difference. Just adding 2 more clips. So if you do have one of these machines, I would recommend doing that. Now it's been a while since I did a nice full workout with this thing. And initially when I first jumped on it, I'm not gonna lie, I mean it felt different compared to how the Total Gym feels, and at first I didn't really like it, but then very quickly into the workout it started growing on me, that old feeling of like, this is definitely, it's a different kind of tension. It's a slightly more aggressive pull or glide to it. And what I mean by that is the tension really feels really close to mimicking kind of what a free weight feels, versus if you have a machine like the Grayflex. I've said the Grayflex is a great machine also, but one of the cons I don't like is that it's almost too smooth. If it's too smooth, you don't kind of get that same replication of like maybe a good cable machine or resistance machine or a weight machine. But regardless, whatever machine you're using, you kind of get used to it. And as I started doing this workout, that could have just been it as well, that stuff just started to click again and started to feel pretty good. And then pretty quickly into the workout, I just started having fun trying out some new stuff like I've been showing you guys in this channel. I've been incorporating some the bar, my resistance bands, having that top pull-up bar, which I've always liked on this machine. I think it works out really good. I actually also had a nice bit of functionality to attaching bands and doing my kind of like my bar pull-ups. Made it a little bit easier too, because I wasn't worried about the thing kind of flying off or kind of hurting the device, because it's one kind of solid unit. But it does have these nice little pins that you can lock in, so if you wanted to lock the pull-up bars up top, it feels pretty secure, like it's not going to fly and hit you in the face. As well as down below on the squat stand, you can also put those pins in, so if you're doing any kind of curls, if you want to do that, again, try at your own risk. But that way I'm not nervous about the actual squat stand flying up off the rails like at the Total Gym. That's a possibility. So a couple of things that I would say are definitely big cons with this machine comparing it to the Total Gym Apex. The first is, like I said, just that twist knob. It just makes transitioning to exercise not as fast as the other one, so I find myself just really not messing with it too much versus on a Total Gym, it's really quick to kind of transition to the different tower heights. There appeared to be like I should double check this, could be my machine, but honestly I noticed this on my weeder as well. And I first just equated it to like, well, the bolts were old, it was an old machine. But I definitely felt like there was a slight tilt to the left. And I kept looking the whole time in this video. I had a leveler somewhere and I lost my base. And of course I found it like just before I was recording this video. But it definitely felt like the machine was tilted slightly to the left, which was a little bit surprising because the base is actually more solid and more like sturdy compared to the Total Gym Apex when you see that later. But there was something going on. I don't know if it was me or something with the machine, but the machine definitely had this slight tilt to the left that was noticeable. Now jumping into the Apex G1 and comparing it to the Proform, really I think one of the biggest selling points you got to consider if you're looking at these two or comparing these two is the fact you get to use the Total Gym attachments. I mean, that's in and of itself is pretty huge. The glide is actually longer, like I said, so that's a big plus. That yes, you can lengthen the cables on their machine, but having the natural glide to be a little longer is nice. And really what I've been saying with the price is that if you really want to reap the benefits of the Total Gym brand and then taking advantage of all the attachments they manufacture, for the most part can actually fit in this G1, which is awesome. Now some of the cons with this machine, I would say one minor con is yes, there's 6 levels, but like I said, the Proform has 7, so that's kind of minor. And it kind of has a somewhat of a noisy, bumpy ride. This is something that is kind of notorious. People have talked about these Apex models that you can kind of switch out the rollers. That's an option. Again, you kind of get used to it. It's not incredibly noisy. It has this kind of like roaring noise, and it has like a slight little bump to it, but that kind of sounds worse than it really is. You get used to it. But again, just like the Proform, I do like the way it feels. It does have a nice, it's not too smooth and not too aggressive. It's in that nice little kind of sweet spot of tension. Now, in wrapping this up and kind of giving you my concluding thoughts between the two, before I give you guys my personal pick, because I will do that, I will say, like I've always said, no matter what machine or sliding bench trainer you have, I've already been saying throughout this video, you will get used to it. If you don't know any better, if you're not jumping from machine to machine, you're going to get used to whatever you have. And every single model, I don't care if it's super expensive or these really like kind of low-end, less expensive models, every one of these sliding bench trainers that I've come across has honestly unique pros and cons that make them kind of distinctively kind of stand out. Now, if I had to pick between the two of these, like if I had no sliding bench trainer and I kind of knowing what I know, I had to like repurchase or only buy one of these, which one would it be? It would probably have to be the Apex G1, honestly, and that is primarily because of all the different attachment options, which that's something to factor in. That yes, it would raise the price of everything, buying all this extra stuff, even a squat stand, a basic squat stand, because you don't have one of those, but I would recommend always picking up the larger squat stand. But it really opens up the level of creativity and then just the potential exercise, which again just increases the overall use of the machine. And the other really big pro for me is the fact that it is so light and relatively easy to kind of fold up and store, and really quickly to kind of transition between exercise to exercise compared to the Proform. But with that being said, if you guys have a Proform or even considering it, the Proform does have its own unique benefits that are kind of worth considering that still might be for you. Two of which I love the most are, one, just the actual feel of the machine, which again is kind of huge. It is something that is just uniquely different and that was kept constant from the old model to the new model, that kind of nice, kind of solid, replicating the resistance style kind of tension you normally get from free weights. And I think I just love their solid pull-up bar attachment. I've always loved just kind of, at least for me, it fits me really good. I like how it's one solid unit. I like the way it feels for doing basic pull-ups, close grip pull-ups, and even the inverted shoulder presses. So that's it, you guys. Those are my initial thoughts of these two products. Love to hear your guys' opinions, because certainly this is only just my opinion. I get a lot of you guys who watch this channel have a Proform, considering one, and or have an Apex type model, Total Gym. So definitely let me know your thoughts and feedback, or if you guys have any questions I didn't cover, I'll be happy to address those, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.